Hello, I am KF. In a previous video I explained why I use BYOS to support knowledge management. One of the key reasons is the flexibility for me to build different content structure. In this video, I am going to explain further about this in more details, so that you can visualize what it is. For the purpose of knowledge management, or an internal system, this is very important. This video will take around 18 minutes. This is one of my own system built using BYOS. I have built a knowledge base inside this system. For now, you can see there from the outside. There is only the home button on the top menu. Basically it is specifically designed like this, because it is not an open website. It requires login before you can see the knowledge base. I might change the concept later when I have time, and when the knowledge base is mature for my other purposes. After login, the knowledge base button appears on the top menu. Let's go into the knowledge base right now by clicking this button. Now we enter the knowledge base session. This part in the middle is my knowledge base. Down here those in rows are my knowledge base content. Currently you can see there are a total of 106 knowledge items. It's not too much now, because I have another over 100 knowledge content stored in my old system. I don't have time to move them over to this new system yet. For new content, I shall add in here in this new system, then when I have time, I shall gradually move over my old content over to bit by bit. The total should be more than 200. Let's look into the list of the content in here. Each role represents one piece of knowledge content in a short and brief format. It is laid out in 3 columns. The first one on the left is RCMD, my short form of recommendation. You can see here it is written good, meaning this content is something nice. The next column is a mixture of title, application, category, and links. Of course every piece of content has its title. Application and category are actually classifications. The last one is a link, which is actually the link to the module. If I click on this link, it will bring me to the web location of the module where I can download it immediately. I don't even have to open the detailed page and find where it is. This saved me a lot of time. That is why I designed the list like this. If I have experience in this module, I don't need to repeatedly go through the details before I reach the download page. The last column on the right is version and date. The boys I am working on has 2 versions. Version 7 and 8. Some of the content information are for version 7, some for version 8, and some for both. This date is the date when I uploaded this content. Basically this is how the structure of the knowledge content directory listing is designed. Then the next I am going to talk about on the left hand side is very important. This part is basically for searching through the knowledge base. In the KM terminology, it is actually taxonomy, or in simple terms classifications. Let's go into more details how the classifications are made. The first one is version. We have 2 versions, 7 and 8. So if we want find something specific to one version, you just check which one. The next one is area of application. If I click it open, you can see a longer list. That's why it is designed to be normally closed. You can just check whatever you want to find in the list. The next one is category. Here you can find things not only limited to the BYOS technology. You can also find other things of interests. Here is an example, where I have Raspberry Pi, which is a specific type of different technology, which I can combine to make something totally new. There are other things like content, algorithms also included here. The reason is, when I am building something with BYOS, I might source something from third parties which I find good, and justifiable. The next one is recommendation. Corresponding to the column in the knowledge base list in the center. First one under recommendation is must have, which is something that should always be included in most installation. The second one is good to have, something of good practice and recommended, even though not a must. The third one is based on need, which is recommended when the functionality is required. The fourth one is wait and see. The first 3 types are normally those that I have already tried and tested, which I consider good, useful, and safe. The fourth type is something I haven't done enough testing, or something new and not yet too mature, but might be of value in some situations. That's why I call it wait and see. This is something that might be useful in future, and we put it in here for now. The fifth one is try at own risk, which might be something I still have tried but found some problem. These problems could be problems of the module itself, but can also be a problem of the settings or other conditions which I didn't match correctly. There might still be value for me to keep its information here. The last one is dangerous, which means something I used and tried before but found some problem, which I probably don't quite recommend. There is only a few in this dangerous type. The last one is a keyword search, which is also important. So if we re-examine all the classifications, we have the first one being versions. Area of application is the second one. Category is the third one. Recommendation the fourth one, and keyword search is the fifth one. So you can see we already have a total of 5 levels of different dimensions for the purpose of searching or taxonomy. Now I make a demonstration to search for the keyword SSL, which means security certificates. Then 3 pieces of content are available related to SSL appears on the right pane. Basically this is the structure or format of the knowledge base listing. The listing on the right pane, and taxonomy, and search on the left pane. However, all of these are just the skeleton structure outside of the content, or at the directory level. This outside structure is designed and built by the system builder, to facilitate user to find what they need. Yet we have not go into the content yet, which is the next thing we shall look into now. Before we go into content, let me find a content page, by typing the keyword of corporate into the search box. Corporate is actually the name of a template I use in my BYOS system. Then I found this one, with title Drupal 8 with corporate plus theme. Now we enter the full detailed page of the knowledge content. You can see that the left pane searching is still available, because users might still wish to search for another piece of content again, or after finishing this page, he continues on to the next thing he wants. On the right pane here is the knowledge content. The first part is a description area. For this particular one, the description is a little bit short though. Then we move down and see 2 words called installation and blocks. Here we start to see the so-called internal structure of a single piece of content. These 2 words are actually the labels of 2 horizontal tabs, like buttons. If we click into the first one, it is information about installation. If we click into the second one, it is information about blocks. In the previous part, we talked about an external structure outside of the content. Here is an example of the structure inside the content. If you think about it, this inside internal structure is just another type of classification, separating the information into tabs. This is a typical example of the internal structure of the content itself. This horizontal tab is just one of the format I used here. There can be other formats too which I might like to use in another location. Next let's look into this tab of blocks. We can see it is actually a table of information inside this sub-page. Like in Excel there are 3 columns here. There is a label in each column. The first row of each column is the label name. In fact, have you ever think that ANS Excel table itself is also a form of classification structure? When things are separated into rows and columns, these rows and columns are also classifications. Here these 3 columns I have labeled block name, description, and appears in. Each column is actually a classification too. Next we look at this yellow row. This one here is labeled a region called slide out. The purpose of labeling it in yellow color is to group a number of rows into the same group. Therefore this is also a classification. If we scroll down further we see more yellow rows. These grouping of rows is a classification by region as we can see on its label name. So if we look back to the whole thing, we have the horizontal tabs as classification. Inside the blocks tab there is a table with rows and columns and they are classifications. And then the yellow row grouping is another classification. All these are different types of classifications, with different structures. They are all taxonomy. So we can see these are the internal classification structure inside the content. In fact, there are even more. If we scroll further down, we see this black title bar. If I click on this title bar, it collapses into one row. At the same time we can see there are other rows of title bars too, all collapsed now. Each bar is actually one single topic, or we can call it a subtopic. We select which topic and click on the title bar, it expands into the subtopic subpage. This is another structure I used to store my knowledge content. Here is around 10 different subtopics here. So this is another type of classification. If you think about it, if I just put everything into a single page, this one page of content will be extremely large and long, and will be extremely difficult for us to find something. The purpose of our classification is to present in a better structure and format so to make it easy for people to reference and find the part of information they need. Let's look a little bit into the details. This is an information of how to create these social media icons with links, to create a result of contact information on social media networks. There are some short codes which help us to do this without having to create these icon images. By copying these codes and some minor modifications, I can create the same effect on another website easily. I can't remember the codes. I just need to know where I can copy them. I don't even understand how the codes work. I just need to know how I can modify them to fit my need. If we scroll further down, we can see there are 2 PDF files I can download. These 2 files are the document for this theme, in 2 different versions. In other words, I would need the system to support me to upload files for users to download. Therefore these file download area becomes part of the structure of my content. Further down to the bottom, these are the classifications for this piece of content, which are actually part of the content structure. You can see these classifications match those I mentioned above. Because of these classified terms, I am able to find them by types or by search in the searching area on the left pane above. With this example, you can see that when we really work on knowledge content, there are quite a lot of specific needs and flexibilities in the content structure and format. But then, we are now only looking at only one type of content, which is this knowledge base. In a real knowledge repository in real life, we would not only have a single content type. We might very well have the needs of other content types. For example, could it happens that we also want to store the results of meeting in a meeting minute format, so that all people concerned can reference back to the meeting results later on? By then, we would require a meeting minutes structure, which is another type of content, with another type of structure. As you can see, in real life we always have to take care of the new needs and new requirements of new types of content, with new structure and format. We never know what will be happening, and what is coming up in future. So a good KM system should allow me to add or modify new content with new structure anytime in future when it comes up, and preferably I can manage this myself, so that I can do it in days, not in months, in quarters, or even in years. To me this is a very important factor to consider, and I take this as the fundamental requirement of a good knowledge repository. If you ask me to follow the existing given structure of a system that other people designed, they can never satisfy me on this. It is simply impossible. So this is an overall introduction of how I built my knowledge base, and the content structure requirements of a knowledge repository in my mind. Next, let me show you a little more about content structure and formats. This is the template I am using called Corporate Plus, and here are some examples. This page is called Style Guide, which shows some more examples. Here are samples of how the fonts and different levels of headings look like. The links can have different hover effects. When you move the mouse over, you can see that there can be different styles of animations. This will deliver better user experience. This is the appearance of different types of messages. It is based on a relatively new technology called Bootstrap, which is pretty common and standard nowadays. We also have ordered lists and unordered lists. Ordered lists are lists with numbers, and unordered lists are lists with bullets. We see them very often in Words or PowerPoint. This next one is called a Fieldset. It is normally a text area with a border like this with a session title. Then this is a button, a text field with a subscribe button, which can be used for user subscriptions by emails. This one here called Select Dropdown is actually a pull-down list for selection. The next one is Table. A table can have headers. The first table has a horizontal header. The second table has a vertical header. In the third table, it has both horizontal and vertical headers. The next page we can see contains shortcodes. By the name you can imagine that there are a little bit of coding. But we do not need to remember them. It is available just for the purpose of copy and paste. Here is a list of icons. We don't need to create and upload these icon images. We just copy the codes given. A lot of these icons have already been created and available online. You just need to know the codes. Here are more different types of icons, with different styles, and different sizes. This icons list with images allow you to upload your own images to be used as icons, so you can create your own. This one here is icons with tooltips. We can create it using these shortcodes. Tooltips is one of my favorite. We can use tooltips to give users some tips, a short explanations, a short remarks or reminders, without having to branch to another page which otherwise would cause distractions. Now this next one is tabs. These are horizontal tabs in the knowledge base I described before. In my knowledge base, tabs are already built in as an internal structure. Here it is also tabs but a little bit different. Here we can present in tabs using shortcodes too, even when it is not built in. Of course it will be more convenient if it is already built in. Apart from horizontal tabs, we can also have vertical tabs. According to what is suitable, you can just choose whatever is suitable in your content for your purpose. The next one is Accordion. We have seen this before in my knowledge base. Accordion is the name of this structure. There are two different styles here, with different colors. We can create this accordions by copying the codes easily. Here is button again, but with different hover styles. When you move the mouse over, you can see different effects. This next one is progress bar. If you want to show something like this in a bar chart manner, this is how it will look like. The last page we are going to see is responsive grid. The first content structure we see here is a 2-column page. Sometimes we would wish to present our content in columns, then it will look something like this. Of course we can also have 3 columns, and 4 columns. Columns don't necessarily be of the same width. We can have 1/3 and 2/3 split, or otherwise the opposite. This another one is an example of another split of 1/4 and 3/4, or the other way round. As a summary, we saw what and how different kinds of internal structures and formats inside the same piece of content can be needed. These are flexibilities that content editors or content contributors would need when they create their content, for the good of better structures, layouts, and formats, which eventually deliver the right context and feeling to the content-consuming users. These structures needed serve the purpose of better internal classifications, better logical layouts and more comfortable presentations. Although not too much, we also saw structures outside of the content. In our example it is the searching area on the left pane of the knowledge base. So we have both structures, both internal and external of the content. In general, internal structures are what needed by the content editors, those who create contents. External structures are normally determined and constructed by system builders. In fact, you should see that a lot of all these many requirements are just for one single reason, and that is, user experience. Finally, this is the advantage of BYOS, which make it possible for normal people without IT background to learn how these both internal and external structures be built and make available in the system. In real life, we have seen a lot of examples how projects failed because of the difficulties in providing such unreasonable but needed flexibilities. I hope this video will supplement the information in my previous video of why I use BYOS to support KM. If you have any queries, welcome to contact me for more discussions. Thank you very much.